Joining me now is veteran journalist Eleanor Clift, who has covered every White House since 1976. She covers politics for the Daily Beast. Talk to us about this change from the Obama administration. How much of it is real? How much of it is show? And I ask that question because even this mother of all bombs, I was reading where an Afghan officer was quoted in one piece saying, for a start, this bomb wasn't as powerful as you think. We just had an analyst on the Heat saying these missile strikes in Syria did nothing to change the dynamics on the ground. It just seems like a very forceful bluster, but really, is it having much of an impact?
Well, on the one hand, you could say that he hasn't really accomplished anything substantive. He hasn't really articulated a Trump doctrine. We don't really know what he's doing, and yet he's accomplished a lot in the sense of really undermining how people think of America. He's injected a lot of anxiety into whether he might misuse or abuse military weapons. We breathe a sigh of relief when it's just a one-time strike here, and he seems to show some restraint. It's not knowing where this is going just creates a lot of anxiety, I think, in this country. And the politicians are torn between following him because he is the president, and Republicans for really trying to fulfill his agenda. And yet the agenda often changes, and it changes frequently for the better. He wanted to abandon the NAFTA, which is a major trade deal that's been in place for decades. Now he's agreed that he will renegotiate. That's good. He has now decided NATO is a positive thing. That's good. You can tick off a number of areas where he has actually shown some learning over this 100 days. And yet there's no confidence, I don't think, in the administration, even among his people, that they have any clear idea of where he's headed or where he's taking the country.
Speaking of clear idea of where things are headed, the Carl Vinson Aircraft Carrier Strike Group, right. No one really had a clear idea of where it was headed. He tweeted that it's on its way and it was going in the other direction. But flexing your muscle, while it can show a certain toughness, it can also produce escalations, miscalculations. There's certain threats there, and the DPRK, we had an analyst on last week who said, you want to talk about Syria and the DPRK, it's not apples and oranges, it's apples and washing machines. I mean, the DPRK has one of the largest submarine fleets in the world. So talk to me about that aspect of all of this.
Okay, again, I keep using the word anxiety. We have a president who seems mostly concerned about himself, his own standings, his ratings, and an apparent willingness to flex military might. So far, he hasn't really, gone all the way with any of those threats. But dealing with North Korea, you're dealing with a leadership there that is more unpredictable than Mr. Trump. And so I think the concern is that he might stumble us into a confrontation. And while the American public would not be at immediate jeopardy, if you're sitting in South Korea, if you're in Seoul, you're very nervous about where the bluster and the bullying might lead. I must say, the president has backed off a bit. I think, again, he is surrounded by some seasoned military advisors, and this country has been practicing what they call strategic patience with North Korea for quite a long time.
Let me ask one final question before we let you go. Defense Secretary James Mattis once said if the State Department funding was cut, then I need to buy more ammunition. We're still looking at Secretary Tillerson. He still doesn't have a lot of his top advisors in place. State Department, it doesn't seem like a priority. How much of a concern is that?
A State Department that doesn't conduct regular briefings, and a new spokesperson has just been named, and she's from Fox TV. So I'm sure she understands the showmanship part of the job. Does she understand the rest? I think there's conflict within the administration. They view the government as, they call it, the deep state. It's if people are there to undermine them. They're trying to vet everybody to make sure they're only putting loyalists in place. I think the State Department is one of the most crippled agencies and one of the most important agencies. But the budget the president has put forth, which savagely cuts the State Department, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, I think Republicans on Capitol Hill want to make sure that we have diplomacy in place. And maybe Mr. Tillerson is fighting behind the scenes. We don't see any of that publicly, that's for sure. But he is one of the sort of the more seasoned people in government, even though he comes from the private sector. Sure. And I think people are looking to him to be sort of a bulwark for diplomacy in this administration.
Well, we'll certainly keep our eye on all of this. Eleanor Clift, always a pleasure with your analysis. Thanks so much.
Thank you.